So after spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars interviewing video editors and test tasks, I did land on a good one, but I'm not sure he's real. I talked through an assistant and he's never able to jump on a call. They does a good job, but it made me scratch the idea of having someone help me create the blog posts and LinkedIn posts automatically. And I started building agents, a small team with orchestration between it, to automate those tasks and to harness LLMs at its best. The results are really cool, so let's jump into it. So my goal now is everyone's talking about workflows and agentic workflows, and it's all great and awesome, and I want to create a simple workflow. I've tried to hire people to do the job. It's not working so well. Let's try to see if we can get AI to do the job. So the job is basically transcribing a video, creating blog posts, uploading that to YouTube, and a bunch of other admin tasks that I want to be streamlined. So I'm going to start just using something simple like Claude Code, and let's start to create the agents. And an agent at the end is nothing more than a prompt. So coffee. It's always good that to ask them to ask you for clarifying questions. It raises a little bit of a discussion. I always like to have. Take the mic down. Let's do an audio agent. Let it build an agent. So it generated a pretty extensive, actually. It's looking at a really nice agent. It looks like it's got a lot of info in it. I'm not sure how much of this will actually work, but let's try it out. It says about error handling, communication style, work step, input validation, audio preparation, transcribe processing, output generation, delivery, quality, required. Yeah, let's create it. It looks like a really good definition of it. I've asked it to create a LinkedIn agent. Basically, an agent is a prompt with a set of permissions. It has iterative loop. You can actually be the man in the middle. It's similar to a skill, but a skill is usually just a very repetitive, like a function call, where an agent tends to have a bit more of context around it, but they're very, very similar. At the end, they're prompts, and the matter is how we interact with them. So this is the LinkedIn post generator, and you can see we're talking about the core mission, the target audience. It pulls stuff from my content strategy, which is very good, key themes, LinkedIn structure, content type, file organization. It tells it to follow the content guide, which is very good. It will tell it where to place stuff. We've got some metadata and keyframes and notes. Ask clarifying questions, and it talks about the iterative process that we refine and we go through iterations. It has a few shot examples, which are really good. You can see that I kind of scrubbed anything that sounds, I want to talk to people basically. And then iterations with it. This looks pretty good. It doesn't have the image generation, but we'll get to that in a second. Now that we have the LinkedIn post generator, and I'll show you guys, like now when I go to agents, I want to create the blog post generator, and I want to base it off that. So now in these cases, the agent is relatively simple. It's more like an agent.md that we will dive into the anatomy of an agent.md later on. But agents have a few levels. First, agents have some iterative. They might be using tools. So we might not do that. We might want permissions that allow it to run in the background so it can actually finish a task completely. It can call other things. It can call skills, but we'll get into that. For now, let's see how it generates the blog gen. Still thinking. So it generated the blog gen. It looks pretty good. It's a bit extensive, the agent.md, but it's not necessarily bad. I feel like it repeats a little, but I think it will work okay. It has a few formats, but that's okay. It shows what I want and my voice. It has hooks and stuff. Not my favorite, but it's okay for now. I just want to get going. And that's the point, is that sometimes these LLMs can let you run really quick, even if it's not perfect. So it talks about SEO when creating. It talks about the content guide, which tells it where to put the files. I've kind of organized that in a very nice manner, so I can actually make this a repeatable system. It talks about the key sections of what to do, visual elements. It talked about using an image gen that we'll see in a minute how we created that one. Asking clarifying questions. This is something that's really important. Always ask it to ask clarifying questions and work back and forth. Even when you code or you do stuff, you're going to get something a lot more precise. This is part of the Iron Man suit. concepts. At least at this time in January 2026. This could change. Iterate on the outline, iterate on each section, generate or place assets. It's talking about where to put the assets. That's great. Pacing, never require for longer, check every few words. It's actually really good. I like it. It has a multi-shot example of what to do and more of a speaking voice. This is something that I've worked with a lot to tell it that it's kind of speaking voice. And let's create that agent. And that's it. This should finish having BlogGen that we will use shortly too. Before we actually see how I created the image generation, and sadly, when I was recording, it crashed. So it already generated it. I saved it, but I'll kind of do a retrospect on it. And when I started doing the transcribe and the image gen, similar to building agents, you can build skills. And I was really curious, so I researched a little bit on the difference, and I want to highlight that because it's very important to understand that. So skills are a bit like a function call. Skills are just a particular action that doesn't really need a lot of context around it, like a commit or a git or a transcribe or an image generation, which doesn't need a lot of context around it. Whereas agents have their own context window. Both are actually a prompt, either skill.md or agent.md in this case. But in general, they're very, very closely related and very, very similar. However, the skills share the main context, whereas an agent really delegates. Think of it like another employee that you hired. So you use skills and agents. Transcribe and image gen are skills, whereas BlogGen and LinkedIn Gen is something that it's a lot more context. I wanted to maybe look at previous contexts. I wanted to orchestrate. I wanted to do more than one shot. Usually a skill is a one shot, whereas an agent can run multiple times. So they do have a lot of similarity. They are fundamentally instructions for the LLM, but there's a slight difference between. This is what I've done. I've used image gen, which is my version, or you can actually go to something really cool. There's a whole website of skills. This is skills MP. And here you have a whole bunch of skills that you can download. And many times a skill is nothing more but a prompt and maybe a Python file that lets it do the stuff. I had an image generation here that was working kind of cool. I tried it, it had a few bugs, so I used the tools that I already created, which are my own Python tools. I vibe code along with Claude. So I used that and I created the image gen. Image gen follows my content, whereas the generate images, the skill uses Flux and OpenAI Open Router. It's pretty cool, but I still chose to keep it with my Open API. I can later on change. It follows my content location. It saves the prompts. It does the things that I wanted to do, but it's easy to wrap image gen to use the generate images. I could put that Python file in and it would use that. So we'll play around with that later on, but this is how I'm using image gen, and this is how the agents, even the agents, the BlogGen and the LinkedIn Gen can actually use the skill to generate images. Now that you see I've created the LinkedIn post generator, we want to actually use it in real life, and we want to ask it, and I've asked it, I gave it some information about Kaparti and the decade of hosts, which the blog post that I wanted to create. Usually I'd create the blog post and then the LinkedIn post. In this case, we're doing it the other way around. So I've kind of asked it first, does it think it's too old? It doesn't. It analyzes the information and it's suggesting a few options. I'm not sure I love all those options, so I'm asking it for a bit more info. I'm telling it to use the agent, and then it created a bunch of options for me. Let's kind of go back for that. It's suggesting a bunch of things. It's suggesting some actual highlights and options. And then I see that it's actually suggested option 1, but I kind of want to, I didn't love it. And this is where you kind of work back and forth with it. You kind of need to do that to really get the value. I'm asking it to give me the full post to see what it thinks through, to understand its reasoning and its thinking. I see the builder perspective, and I want to hone it in. I want to make sure that it flows a little nicer, and I prefer actually option 2 in this case. And I want to get a better sense, so I'm asking it to rewrite again. And this is the cool part with working with these LLM. Here it wrote something better, it's a little bit more that, and then I can go in and I tweak it further as I see, as I am. It just helps me. It's like my Iron Man suit. And once we reach that, I actually ask it to sum up, to use the discussion synthesizer and the LinkedIn post assistant to run those in the background and to generate everything and to generate the post. and that works pretty well. It saved the post. It had some issue with directories. Then it wrote the files to the folder. I've asked it to also add timestamping to stuff, which is really cool, so we can kind of keep track of what's going on. Here I'm kind of fast forwarding, and you can see that I've asked it to make all of them timestamp. This is just edits that will make the post and discussions always timestamped.